What? Should be, but it's 6 a.m. for him, so it's not like very bad. Yeah, but he's not online yet. So I don't know if I'll give him a few minutes because it's we have time. But I keep tomorrow is only session I'm sharing with someone. Everything else it's like 4 sessions this week, and 3 of them I'm alone. So I'm used to it. Or is it just I could not say no? Let's not mistake to those things. They're not the same actually. Oh, hey. Ah. Hello, Brian. Brian, can you hear us? Audio check.
Uh, yes, indeed, I can. Can you hear me?
Ah, cool.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to Passover networking meeting. Brian is remote. Brian, we do appreciate you being up at 6 a.m. Oh, we can see you even. Great.
I have coffee. Everything is fine with the world.
It looks like White Russian to me, but okay. First of all, before we even start, this is a IETF note well. Please note it. Drafts are uploaded, so you don't need to read it from the screen, but please make yourself familiar with this. Housekeeping. I don't think it's going to be an issue today, but please, if you could, scan QR code to join the virtual queue. If you go into microphone in person, because it makes my life much easier. If I need to manage only one queue and not trying to keep track who was in virtual queue, who was in the real queue.
Also, if you're not going to the queue, please scan the QR code anyway, because this is how we guess what size rooms to pick.
Thank you very much, Colin. Yes, please scan QR codes. You don't need to sign blue sheets anymore, but you do need to scan QR code, right? So next time we also get a nice room and nobody needs to sit on the floor or stand next to the wall, right? People who are remote, please keep your audio video off until you're speaking. Please wear the masks unless you're actively speaking and the mic. I think it's all for housekeeping. Yes, we need minutes takers. This is going to be a very short meeting, not much work, so I do appreciate if someone could volunteer for this. Please, someone. We don't have transcription even. Like, yeah, I need to be very careful what I'm saying. So you can basically look in the transcript. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And if you say anything in the mic, I recommend you to look in the meeting minutes and correct them or update them, add what you think you are saying. Okay. So agenda-wise, very short meeting. My apologies. You know, like last couple of times we had a very, very full agenda. So this time we decided to ask for 2 hour slot, but for some reason nobody wanted to present. So you're going to have a lot of your time back on this slot. We have one short update on SCION, and we'll have a small, very, very short presentation, which should encourage you to attend a side meeting. What happened since last IETF? Not much. Our working group document, past properties, is currently in IRSG poll, so on the way to RFC. We do not have any other document in the group, so if you think anything should be of interest to the group, please suggest the drafts. I know that some people are working on some documents, and we are going to hear about that very soon. But currently, nothing. So, Brian, do you want me to cover this, or you want to speak on this topic?
Yeah. So, as Jen said, this time we, looked at the last few agendas we've had, and we said, yeah, we need a 2 hour slot, and have about 30 minutes at a stretch this morning. Looking at sort of where we are, it's pretty clear that the SCION work is progressing, and we're going to have a fairly in-depth presentation discussion on that. But like beyond that, there doesn't seem to be a lot of demand for discussion work in the research group at the moment. This is going to be an update, right? Like, so the idea is that the drafts sort of progress. I expect initial drafts go through the independent submissions queue. We look at where that should engage with the rest of the IETF process. There's not much else on the agenda this time. There's some discussion about a side meeting. We'll have a look at that. Encourage those who review are in the Oklahoma to go attend. But there's not much else on the agenda this time. So we figured probably the right thing to do. Also, because one of the chairs, at least me, will not be in San Francisco in any capacity, not even remote. We would propose not to meet at IETF117 in San Francisco, and then to basically hold anything that we would have for San Francisco for the 118 meeting in Prague. We can revisit this on the list if there's like in the interim a need to do an interim meeting. We can, we've done a few of those and those have worked out really well. We can definitely do a virtual interim there, but we would propose not to meet at 117 in San Francisco. Again, this is a proposal. If there's discussion on these points, please take it to the list.
So yeah, if you have been thinking about presenting something in San Francisco, please let us know, because obviously if there is a interested agenda items and activities on the list, we will be happy to meet. We just do not want to spend time with you not getting enough agenda items. Okay, so I think this is all from the chairs. And Nicola, are you present? Okay, good. The floor is yours. Let me start sharing your slides. Sign update.
Do you give me?
Yeah, it should be on.
Do you give me control or?
I'm not sure I can give you control. You can voice control. You can say next slide.
Okay.
Or nod, and
I'll
slides
use you
will be
as
automatically
as an
changed.
Alexa.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Jen, for the introduction. So this is Nico Russignoli from the SCION team. And I wanted to give actually rather quick update about the status of our work. and also about the status of SCION in general. So before going to the draft, I wanted to say something about what has been happening in the SCION ecosystem in the last few months since I think we last met in London. So some news about productive deployments. As far as you probably have heard, you know that the biggest productive deployment of SCION is in the finance industry in Switzerland. So there is this network called the Secure SCION Swiss Finance Network, and this is based on SCION. So whenever you pay money from one bank to the other, then the clearing systems need to talk to each other. And this network is now being migrated to SCION. So the latest update here is that while this network until today, it was partially being onboarded on SCION, now by September 2024, this will be fully migrated to SCION. So that means that I think a few hundreds of finance institutions will actually be connected to the network. So this will definitely increase the size of the, let's say, biggest deployment, will give us additional experiences. The other update is that SCION is also expanding to other industries. So in Switzerland, there is also a network that connects hospitals, practices, doctors, and so on. This is run by a company called HIN or Health Infonet. And in end of last year, they also had the initial setup for a SCION network. So the idea here is to expand SCION also to the Swiss healthcare ecosystem and to make sure that they can, use the geofencing properties, the path-aware properties to communicate between hospitals, doctors, and so on. So it's good to see that this is getting, let's say, out of the financial use case. On the education side, then there is also an initiative led by the University of Magdeburg to actually roll out a global SCION education network. Here, the idea is to deploy SCION to education institutions, both to allow experimentations by researchers and so on. So this is already being rolled out at a couple of universities in Europe. I think there is also support by SCION and by some other NRENs. And so it's good to see that there is also some developments in this direction. Another development is that we got the SCION Association created. It's actually an association of companies that actually build and create this SCION network. So I'm actually myself now working for the association. Our goal is to try to improve and grow the SCION community. We actually took over the open source implementation of SCION. So now this is a bit more maintained in a more structured way. And so we hope that this will also increase the quality of the open source. So next slide, please. So going back to the draft, where do we stand today? So if you've never heard about SCION, you probably might want to go to this SCION overview draft that you see on the left. And this draft gives you an overview of basically the design goals of SCION, the key properties that it provides. It talks a bit about the components. We have had quite some lengthy discussions here at PANRG, I think last year. And one of the main feedback is that SCION is a big system. So there was a bit the need to try to, let's say, split or identify the core components and how they interact between each other. And that's why we have been writing this component analysis, telling a bit what are the main blocks of SCION, what are their inputs, outputs, and how they relate to existing protocols. Besides that, we have individual drafts about each one of the three main components. So the control plane PKI, the control plane itself, and the data plane. The PKI is the only draft that is published at the moment. We were actually hoping to have also the control plane ready for this IETF. We unfortunately could not make it, but we have it, I think, in a good state. So we hope that for the next one, this will be ready. So maybe because of that, maybe we might also see if we might be discussing that at the next IETF or so on, just regarding what Jen said about the next meeting. But we can take it on the list. So yeah, stay tuned on the list. We will let you know as soon as this is available. So going to the specific draft, if you go to the next slide. On the component analysis, we did some minor adjustments for now. One is about vocabulary. So now that the vocabulary for path-aware networking draft is getting to a more final state, we started looking at that, and I think there would be great inputs to use more precise terminology. So the first word that I think many people found a bit confusing was this about end hosts. So we renamed them into endpoints according to the vocabulary draft. An endpoint is basically where the SCION word terminates, and when you have either an end host or whether you have maybe an IP network. So it's basically the edge between the SCION word and the IP word. We also added a mention in this draft about potentially using IPv6 extension headers for the data plane. This is something that is just an idea floating around for now, so I think it's a bit early to discuss how it works in detail. But we have been thinking about it internally, and we think this could make a lot of sense in the long term, even though the current version of SCION that is deployed today is actually using the SCION, it's a SCION-owned data plane header. So I think this is a discussion that we will be able to have in some time. Updated some references. There is still some work to be done on this draft on interoperability, continue on reviewing the terminology. So we actually plan to spend a bit more time reviewing this draft in the upcoming months. So if you have any feedback or any ideas on how this can be improved, I think this would be a great time to let us know. Moving on to the next topic and also to the next slide. If you can go to the, okay, that's good. There is this overview draft. For now, we were able to do some minor changes also on terminology, similarly to the previous draft, on the language in general. There is still quite a lot of work to do here, so we'll also work on this draft before the next IETF. One thing is that we will try to have the main components specified in separate drafts, as I mentioned earlier. So we'll try to remove some of the content from this draft. Now it's quite lengthy, if you have seen it. And at the same time, I think we should expand a bit on the deployment section, on how SCION can be deployed. I think some folks have asked about a life of a packet, perhaps, if that could help understanding SCION, and maybe some diagrams. Overall, the goal of this draft is to just orientate somebody that wants to know about SCION. So if you have also ideas about how we can make it easier, if you don't know much about it and want to know about it, then please let us know so that we can consider that for the next iteration. Moving on to the next slide, we have the control plane PKI, and actually my colleague Corinne de Cutter should be here online at home.
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Okay, so I'll leave it to her.
Oh, sorry. Yes, so we also, do you hear me, by the way?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
Do you want to share a screen?
No, it was a mistake.
Okay.
Yes, so we published the PKI draft in middle of last year, and we already got also feedback from various reviewers, among which was Ras Housley from the IETF community. Thank you very much. And also from the SCION dev community, and we try to address that feedback. Then among this, we also, or one of these things was that we corrected the number allocations of the SCION isolation domains. We also made it more precise or specified. It was a bit very global range, and now we just gave it a little bit more precise. Locations. Then we extensively revised and shortened the certificate specification section. It was very descriptive, and also the certificates we use are X509 version 3 certificates, and in the first version of the draft we also described these certificates types in general, but now we only focus on the specific SCION constraints and conditions. Also, there was some kind of repeating description of the several SCION certificate types, and we now how do we say that, put this in one small descriptive section, and that is it. So in all, we really try to make it a bit more compact. There is also the SCION control plane PKI is, how do you say it, the base of it is some kind of trust root configuration, which is there is a signing ceremony of this base trust root configuration, and the previous draft had a detailed description of that. It's still there, but I moved it to the appendix because this is more like a policy how you could do it, but it is not a must. So we thought it should not be really be in the main part of the draft. And then we improved the references because it now it's now divided in nominative references and what the other ones, I don't know. But at least, yes, they are now better, how do you say it, divided. Yeah, that is it. So it is now, this second version is online, and if you want to have a look at it, please go ahead. We welcome every feedback. So, and then it's not on the slide yet, but we are working on this control plane draft, and we also hope that we can submit this one in the next couple of months. So yes, as Nicola said, it would be nice to present this draft on the next IETF, and we can see in which meeting this would be. But yes, that was our plan. But okay, that's it from me. I think we are now, yes, already through the presentation. So if there are any questions.
Okay, so queue is opened. Any questions, comments? Antoine?
Hello, Antoine Franco. So, hi. I wanted to say that I've been really interested in your teaser about the link between SCION data plane and the IPv6 extension header. And if I may, I would like to help on that if you.
Yeah, thanks. So as I mentioned, this is for now an idea. I think there's lots of open questions about how you would actually do the interoperability. I think the goal here would be to perhaps work on a prototype and see how this works. Mm-hmm. For example, one question is how do you map IP address to a SCION ISD and AS? The ISD AS is 64 bits. Can you squeeze it into the IP address? For example, maybe in some of the bits there. Do you need a mapping system? I think this is open. We want to get there, but for us, for now, we really want to focus now on finishing the 3 main drafts. So we have to prioritize that, and I think we can keep this discussion in there because I think this will be interesting. Still, I think the goal for now with the 3 main drafts is to try to document the existing deployments. So the way SCION is deployed is, as I mentioned, on its own data plane. So probably the first version will be with the SCION data plane. But I think this could be further work that we could maybe be doing. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe this group or somewhere else. Yeah,
because we are having work on IPv6 extension header with privacy functionalities that may double with what you're doing. So comparing your approach and ours can be beneficial.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I actually second. It would be a very interesting to see extension headers deployments. And by the way, yeah, I know that you sent drafts to the list. It was an email a while ago. I encourage people to read them and comment on them. So we have some discussion on the list. I see Brian in the queue now.
Good afternoon. Hello, Nicola. Thank you very much for the update. So this actually, can we go back to the slide with sort of like the document roadmap? Back.
Share.
The only thing with pictures on it, if I recall correctly. There we go. So I think what I would propose, PANRG chair hat on, would be let's actually have a big meeting on this in Prague. That you think you'll have the data plane document done by Q3? Is that are you willing to commit to that in front of an audience of 47 people and say, hey, let's actually have a big meeting on this in Prague?
I think we can commit.
Okay, perfect.
Nicola?
Yeah,
This would be
absolutely.
possible, yes.
For us, I mean, most of the team is also based in Zurich, so it will be also easier to maybe get a few more
Yes.
folks to Prague.
Yes, we will try to have a whole team, SCION team in Prague.
Yeah, that
maybe.
would be really good.
Yeah.
That would be really
Yes.
good. And I don't know if you'll be able to get any of the people who are doing operational stuff on the two big Swiss deployments so far, but it would be neat to have a talk about experience with those as well.
Yes,
Okay.
I was
Very
chatting
cool.
about it with some folks. So
You mean to
So-
get them to Prague, isn't it?
Yeah, to get them to Prague.
Yes, I think that
Yeah.
should be possible, yes.
Probably easier to get a bunch of Swiss network operators to the Czech Republic than it is to the west coast of the US.
Mhm.
I'm
Yes.
just checking sort of my assumptions about, is it going to be easier to have our next meeting on this in Prague versus San Francisco? And I think my assumption is holding here. Okay, very cool. A clarification question that I think goes back to Antoine's a little bit on the data plane stuff. So the deployments that exist, so there's the SSFN deployment and then the healthcare deployment in Switzerland. Those are using, to clarify, those are using the SCION data plane, not like an IPv6 data plane, but they're using it endpoint to endpoint. So these are basically tunnel endpoints as opposed to end host, correct? Or is this all the way to sort of the server info?
they are using the SCION data plane. The deployment is mostly based on the SCION to IP gateway. So the SCION
Okay.
endpoint is actually the gateway, and then you have IP hosts that then
Right. So it's more a
and then
network
traffic is
engineering
tunneled
sort
over.
of thing than like an application engineering thing, right? Like, so it's being used primarily as a network engineering tool to build tunnels that have properties that like other tunnels don't. Correct?
In some way, yes. I'm not sure if you can strictly talk about tunnels, but
Okay, cool. So, okay, actually, yeah, these are all questions that I would love to ask some of those people. So let's see if we can figure out a way to get them to Prague.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I think that's all I have. Thanks again for coming to Yokohama and giving us a presentation. Sorry I couldn't
Yeah.
be there.
Okay, so I believe we have one short presentation. Are you by online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can I just share my screen quickly?
Yeah, let me grant your screen share rights. Okay.
Hello,
We can see screen, yeah.
konnichiwa. Hello, konnichiwa. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Ayub Missus, and I'm part of a global research group at Fujitsu, working on advanced technology development and experimentation to realize the concept of trust-enhanced networking. I wanted to tell you that we are organizing this side meeting today between 5 and 6:30. And we believe this topic might be relevant to some of the aspects that you are basically covering as part of the Path Aware Networking Research Group. And we want you to attend this meeting. Let me just quickly give you a quick overview of the tentative agenda as part of this meeting. So basically, we start by explaining our concept called trust-enhanced networking. One of the use cases for this concept is robust localization, and how it can be presented as a use case for trusted networking. With the support of our partners in the Alto group, they will present some aspect related to identity management for trust, and also some of the GDPR or policy enforcement for trust. And we did have, as part of the agenda, big room for open discussion and feedback. Let me briefly show some of the aspect in details. So we start by presenting the concept, the question related to robust geolocation, which is basically focusing on how trust can be used to avoid some of the problem related to the exact position of entities in the network. We also mentioned we'll cover aspects related to trust modeling and measurement. And basically, the big question that we're trying to address is what would trust-centric networking look like in practice, and how we can bring this forward with the support of IETF. The major discussion point towards the end of this meeting will be the importance of this topic, the relevance to the IETF community, and what would be the future for this discussion. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Jen and Brian, and thank you for the Pathware Networking Research Group for your support. If you have any question, I'm all ears to hear them here. Otherwise, see you in a couple of hours, I think. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ayub, for bringing this here. Any questions? Okay, if you. Okay, oh, we have people in the queue. Brian? No? Disappeared. Nicola?
Hi, Ayub. Thank you for the presentation and for organizing the side meeting. I think trust is a really important point of SCION. So I think the work is somehow, there's some like connections between the work that SCION and also the SCION PKI do and what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, I think we were in touch over email. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I will be there. Hopefully we'll maybe get also somebody else from the SCION team that has been doing some recent research on a similar topic. Yeah, looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I just received your latest email, so it was a bit early here for me. Let me cover that, and hopefully I will try to cover some of the aspect during the side meeting. Thank you very much for your support. And definitely, SCION, the work that you're doing is very, very important for trust, and hopefully we'll try to find some common ground that we can further explore. Thank you.
Okay, Brian?
I'm back out of the queue because I wanted to have the last word here. I would ask Ayub or someone who is at this meeting to please send sort of a summary of what happens to the PANRG list, because I think there is a lot of overlap in the interest in the communities, and like looking at the room versus sort of the people I know. I think there are a lot of people who are remote, like not in Yokohama, who would like to have sort of a summary of what comes out of that. So if I could ask you to send a summary of that to the list, that would be great.
Yes, I will try to cover that and hopefully give you an update. Thank you very much again, Brian, for your support.
Okay. Any more questions, comments, suggestions? Okay. In this case, we can get hour and a half back. Sorry for the short meeting. So see you in Prague, or if any interesting work comes up, indeed in San Francisco. Thank you. Brian, are you in the queue? You want to say something, or you just... Oh, okay.
No, bye all. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you guys.
Prague.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you. If you remember, do you see Adrian at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I was a colleague of his at CMU.
Oh, it's you. Okay.
Yeah, well, do me a favor and say hi to him for me.
Absolutely.
I will get a
Just-
card momentarily.
Oh, okay, have a card. Perfect.
We wrote one of the early papers on together.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And you're based in Japan. Okay.
Yeah, now Japan.
I see. Oh, well.
Okay.
Alrighty, absolutely.
Okay, say
I'll
hi
send you
to
my
him.
regards and I'll see you on 2 weeks on Wednesday.
Bye.
What did you want to close? Social service.
Oh.
So frustrated as hell raising research. Yeah, well, they offer, which in Europe